how's it going YouTube? Welcome to Asian Filmist. My name is Ray and I love movies. And the movie we're going to talk about today is 2012's Ace Attorney, directed by one of my favorite directors, Miike Takashi. Now, Ace Attorney is an adaptation of the hit game series of the same name. The movie version stars Narimiya Hiroki, Kiritani Mirei, Saito Takumi, and Ishibashi Ryo. Now, unlike many of the adaptations I talk about on our channel, I actually have played the Ace Attorney game, so I can talk about this movie as a fan of the game series and as a fan of the movie. Now, one thing I'd like to point out about the Japanese and English versions of the Ace Attorney games is that both versions have different names for all their characters. Each version's names are kind of constructed around puns and word plays in either language. But for the case of this review, we're going to call each and every character by their English language name, just so you guys know what I'm talking about. Now, I'm going to talk very briefly about the game. Now, I know many of you fans are playing the newly released Ace Attorney 6, which just came out to the States not too long ago as of this video's recording. This movie adapts the very first game in this series, Phoenix Wright, Ace Attorney. In the games, you play as a title character, a defense attorney by the name of Phoenix Wright, and you have to go around to different places, talk to many different people, and gather as much evidence as you can, so that way you can protect your client in the court. The way the movie is set up, it kind of takes that exact premise and adapts it really well for the screen. So the story takes place in an alternate world Japan, and in this world, crime is so rampant that the courts have to make this new system which kind of speeds along each of the cases they hear, so that way they can make room for as many cases as they can. And essentially, the prosecutors and the defense attorneys have 3 days to solve the mystery of a crime before the judge hands out his judgment based on the evidence given. Now, our main man, Phoenix Wright, who's played by Narimiya, he's, like I said before, he's a rookie defense attorney. And one day he comes to the office to discover that his mentor, Mia Fei, has been murdered. And who is the main suspect of Mia's murder? Why, her younger sister, Maya Fei, who's played by Kiritani Mirei. Now, Phoenix takes it upon himself to represent Maya and defend her to prove that she didn't in fact kill his mentor Mia, and that there was a real killer out there. But unbeknownst to either of the main characters, Mia's murder is actually connected to a case that happened 15 years ago. Thus begins a movie that takes the quirky characters that we know and love from the game and the strange and bizarre storylines and combines it with the atmospheric settings that only director Miike Takashi can provide. So that's the story. Now let's talk about the things I enjoyed about this movie, which is a whole lot. Everything brought over from the game into the movie is preserved quite perfectly, if I might say. Or if it's something that when usually brought over to a movie would end up being strange or weird, the movie adapts it quite well so that way it works in a cinematic presentation. One of the first scenes you are introduced to in the movie is, to put it in the terms of the game, is the tutorial trial. It's kind of funny the way the movie adapts it actually. It's as if Phoenix conducts his first trial in a janitor's closet in the corner of a courthouse. But it's in this first scene that you can see that the way the characters look and the way the characters act, they're preserved quite perfectly from how they were presented in the original game. Like Phoenix Wright has his trademark spiky hair, and his best friend Larry Butts has a hairstyle that looks like a broom. Basically, every single character in this movie looks like professional cosplay models. At first, it might seem strange, but the movie makes it kind of work. As I said before, the story takes place in an alternate world Japan, so the fashion is quite different, and the way people style their hair, so kind of justifies why Edgeworth, who's played by Saito Takumi, is dressed the way he does. But each of the mannerisms are on point from how they were originally. Like Saito Takumi does an excellent job in portraying Edgeworth's arrogance and the way he just snaps his fingers, and even the way Phoenix Wright just keeps talking and keeps running his mouth just to buy time so that way he can somehow think of an idea that can help his case. And one thing I particularly liked in this movie is the way they portrayed the way items are displayed. In the game, they're displayed by regular item windows. You have a box with a picture of an item on it, and the way the movie works those item windows in is through the form of holographic displays. These holographic displays show in the middle of the courtroom for everyone to see, and they look and act like just like how they would in the games. It's really fun to watch. And something that I thought was quite humorous is that in the game, Phoenix actually has to spend time away from the courtroom, going to different places, talking to people, and gathering evidence. And they actually take some time in the movie to do that. Like you see Phoenix just going around, fishing different items out of the river, kind of looking at things under rocks. And half the time, it ends up not finding anything. As Phoenix is searching for evidence, you see a crowd of onlookers just kind of watching to see if he finds something that will bring light to the case. Because in this world, in this Ace Attorney movie, the courtroom cases are kind of like prize fights. You actually have to buy a ticket to see a defense lawyer, and a prosecutor duke it out in the courtroom. But in the scenes that take place in the courtroom and in the scenes that take place when Phoenix is going around collecting evidence, keep your ears open because you will hear a lot of music from the original games, kind of reworked or remixed so that way they fit into the movie. And as you're watching, keep your eyes peeled as well, because one thing that I really like that they did in this movie is they took things and people that are connected to the third and fourth case in the game, basically the filler episodes and stories that aren't really connected to the main story, and they bring them into the movie in the form of Easter eggs. And one thing that I thought was very unique about the live action adaptation as opposed to the video game version is that the movie was more of a thriller at times. Like, of course, Miike Takashi is the director, so it feels like something Miike would make throughout the entire film. So there are lots of times when the music and the scenery get really dark and you start to think you're watching a different movie. But that's actually kind of connected to some of the bad things I want to talk about this movie, so let's go ahead and talk about that. One thing to talk about is, it's something when I first watched the movie, it didn't bother me so much, but upon rewatching, I kind of have a second opinion about it, and is that the tone is really inconsistent with this movie. At its core, Ace Attorney is a courtroom murder mystery. So, there are times when it feels like a courtroom drama, but then it kind of switches to becoming a supernatural thriller because, if you haven't played the games, this may come off as a surprise, but there are a lot of spirits and supernatural elements involved in the storytelling. After the scenes where it feels like a supernatural thriller, it kind of changes to becoming more of a buddy comedy. So the movie kind of jumps back and forth between those three different themes, and at times it feels very schizophrenic, but at the same time, the games were kind of like that too. But then in the movie you have Miike at the helm, and then he works his magic so you can really feel that something is wrong. It's not as consistent as one would like a film to be. That being said, the biggest thing I have against this movie is that this movie caters so much towards fans of the game. It's not a bad thing, but it's to the point that casual film goers may be put off by this movie. Like, you have a crime thriller with a really excellent murder mystery story, but then you have these weird character designs and this kind of strange story that bounces back and forth between genres. And, things that kind of happen as they would in the game, and for fans of the game, it's no problem because that happens all the time. For example, the character Red White, who's the very first villain you come across in the game, in the movie, he suddenly from out of nowhere pulls out a megaphone and starts yelling at the audience. If you play the game, it's like, that's normal, it can happen. But then if you're a casual movie watcher, you would think, wait, where did he pull that out of? That couldn't have been hidden in his trench coat because, there would have been something sticking out. But aside from all that, I watched this movie as a fan of the game and I absolutely loved it. So the bottom line of the Ace Attorney movie, it's a courtroom murder mystery filled with many interesting characters, unique character design, and a very strange and bizarre story that only Miike could really pull off. However, as I said before, only game fans, I feel, would really appreciate this movie, more so than a casual film goer. I definitely recommend this movie for fans of the game series, and for those naysayers that say video games will never make a good movie. Because I just gotta say that Ace Attorney, even until today, it's probably the best video game live action adaptation to date. Like, they brought all the good stuff into the movie, even the catchphrases like objection, take that, hold it. And it's just really satisfying to see a game series that you really like be brought to life really successfully in a movie. But those are my thoughts about the Ace Attorney movie. What did you guys think? Whatever your thoughts are, leave a comment below, and don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to Asian Filmist for more reviews and discussions on Asian films. You can also chat with us on Facebook and Twitter, and if you subscribe to our email newsletter, you can receive a free copy of our ebook, The 108 Asian Films for New Fans to Watch. And once again, my name is Ray. You can find me on Twitter at RayMaru555. And that's about it, everyone. Alright guys, I'm about to go watch another movie. I'll be back soon, yeah? Promise.